If you're looking for a way to supercharge your immune system as we go into the fall, stay with me. We'll be talking about PPIs and we'll be talking about crazy advice. You're not going to want to miss this. We'll see you on the flip side. You unlock this door with the key of compassion. Beyond it is another world, a world of science, a world of common sense, a world of sanity. You're moving into a land of both empathy and ethics, of nutritional knowledge and empowerment. You've just crossed over into Dr. Osborne's zone. Hey, welcome to the Dr. Osborne Zone. We've got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about 7 strategies to supercharge your immune system. We've got the school year starting and coming up, fall's coming right up. We're going to be going into cold and flu season, and I want to make sure your immune systems are taken care of. Now, on that note, I want to share with you a quick personal story. I was in the gym working out this past week, and a woman comes up to the pull-up bar next to me, and she proceeds to pull a Lysol can out of her gym bag and spray down the machine. I want to just say that is not the way to supercharge your immune system. That is a surefire way to breathe in a bunch of nasty chemicals that will suppress your immunity. So don't do that. That's not the way that we want to charge our immune systems. Let's talk about things that you can do. Now, number 1 is obviously building lean muscle. This is what we were just talking about. Being in the gym, we want to build that muscle. Why? Why is muscle so important? Now, ladies, you don't have to look like Hulks, She-Hulks, right? But lean muscle is the key here. So, that term lean, and again, this comes back to resistance training. Why do we want to do that? Muscle serves as a reservoir for proteins. So basically it's a holding tank for proteins that are needed. Remember, when your immune system is activated because of a threat, you will sometimes, what your body will do is it will pull muscle to drive the production of antibodies. Okay, so your immune cells that produce antibodies, these proteins from your muscle are gonna drive the ability to make antibodies. So we can actually use that as a reservoir for antibody production. We can also use that protein as a reservoir for other immune needs. And so if you don't have it, you're going to be in trouble. This is why what happens when a lot of people get a cold or a flu and they're down in bed for several weeks, sweating, their muscles are wasting away. Their body's tapping into that reservoir. So if you've got a nice solid frame with lean muscle, you're going to have that reserve tank should you happen to get sick. And this is going to be one of the most important things that helps you bounce back quicker. So what do we do here? How do we build lean muscle? We could do a whole show on that topic alone, but I think, number 1 way to build lean muscle is resistance. Resistance exercise. And what I see a lot of people do incorrectly is they focus on heavy kind of cardiovascular training. And this is not really going to build much muscle for you. So don't focus here. You don't want to go to the gym, get on a treadmill or elliptical runner or bike or something of that nature and just pound away doing these things. You really want to have some resistance activity. Now, you don't have to go super heavy either. You don't have to, deadlift 1,000 pounds or anything, but you want consistent resistance exercise because that's what stimulates the muscle to grow and stay strong and create that nice solid immune reservoir. Okay? Let's check out some of the research-based links on physical activity and your body's immune defense system. So here we go. We've got exercise immunology. This is, again, this is from the Journal of Sports and Health Science. And so we've got the exercise aspect, acute chronic changes. We get enhanced innate immunosurveillance. So your innate immune system surveillance is improved. It works better, right, with moderate exercise. This is why just pissed me off so much during, the disease that shall not be named, if you know what I'm talking about, right? When they closed the gyms, this was like a huge mistake for the health and the immune system of people everywhere, right? So the immunosurveillance means your innate immune system, it's how the sensory cells help to identify good from bad. So when you're not exercising, you don't get those benefits. And this is, again, This is with moderate exercise. It doesn't have to be intense. You also get transient immune dysfunction after heavy exertion. So if you go too heavy, this is where overtraining can be a bad idea, right? So we don't want to overtrain. You don't want to work yourself so bad that you can't walk or function the next day. So don't do that. Then we have the clinical influences. So you have what's called a J-curve effect on acute respiratory illness, which is an improvement in your body's ability to recover from that. You have reduced systemic inflammation in physically active and lean individuals. So what does that mean? What was the fear that we all had, or that many had, was that dreaded cytokine storm, which caused severity of inflammation. But if you're lean, physically active, then you have less inflammation. Systemically speaking, you're less prone to a cytokine storm, and so you get protection in that way. We also know that exercise immune linkages to reduced chronic disease. So again, what were the comorbidities? And what are the comorbidities for any respiratory disease, for any viral or bacterial issue for that matter? The comorbidities are being overweight, but more specifically, not so much being overweight. I think that's a misstatement. It's actually being under-muscled. Most people that are overweight are under-muscled. That's not 100% true, because some of the lean bodybuilders are way, way more than what their BMI by height should say. But they're definitely not overweight in regards to being under-muscled. But it's the under-muscled aspect that really creates the issue. Then we have, again, the nutritional interaction, so that these individuals, carbohydrate attenuates post-exercise inflammation. So if you exercise, you're going to burn through your carbohydrate fuels, right? And so what this is saying is that carbohydrates, if you have some carbohydrates after your exercise, you're going to attenuate or slow down the level of inflammation. So again, this is where after the workout or after the routine, some people do better by eating. So eat something. And ideally, I like somebody to eat something more balanced. And so what that would look like would be like you've heard me probably talk about the rule of thirds: a third carb, a third fat, a third protein, within a couple of hours of that window. And you'll give your body the fuel to recover from that workout routine. And then exercise mitigates effects of aging on the immune function, what they're calling immunosenescence. Senescence just means aging. So a lot of benefits and linkages between staying physically active and fit and keeping your immune system running to full capacity. All right, let's go to number 2 here. Go outside. Again, one of the other defects of advice that we got over the past 2 years. What does outside bring? It brings vitamin D. How many research studies are there on vitamin D and immune function and healthy immune function? There's hundreds of them. I mean, this is not a small area of research. We know for a fact that vitamin D is critical for healthy immune function. We also know that getting into the sun allows your body to produce melatonin more effectively. There's also a chemical called phytoncides. These are compounds secreted by plants, odors and chemicals secreted by plants that have immuno effects on humans, improve immune function. But then we also get outside, we get fresh air, which is also obviously very, very important. It's one of the 7 non-negotiable fundamentals to good health is clean air, right? You've got to have that clean air. So go outside. Again, don't lock yourself down. Never lock yourself down again. Go outside. Stay outside as much as you can to get those immune benefits. Let's look at what some of the research has to say about being outside. I love this. This was from a recent published study out of Japan. And so what they're talking about here is the effect of forest bathing trips on human immune function. Forest bathing, what the heck is that? That's when you go out into the forest and basically take a bath in the fresh air and the chemical aromas secreted by the plants. I'll just read to you from this study. The same measurements were made before the trips on a normal working day as a control. The mean values of natural killer activity, that's a type of cell, natural killer cell, it's part of an immune system function, and numbers of natural killer granulolysin, perforin, and granzymes, these are chemicals secreted by natural killer cells, Expressing cells on forced bathing days were significantly higher. So basically, this person's immune system had a higher level of natural killer, which are the natural sentry cells of the body, and those chemicals that these natural killer cells are capable of producing, higher concentrations on days of forced bathing versus days of not forced bathing. So again, that going outside stimulates healthy immune function. We want to tap into that. Being outside is critical for a strong, functioning immune system. Let's talk about the other big 10,000-foot obvious elephant in the room, and that's sleep. You all know when you sleep, we all went through this, probably most of us did anyway, where you were young, right, and you were immortal and you were never going to die and you were never going to fall prey to the loss of function of old people, right? And so you would party all night, or maybe it wasn't partying, maybe it was stay up all night or whatever it was that you did, and get very, very little sleep, roll out of bed, go to work the next day, maybe you got 1 or 2 hours of sleep. When you were younger, you could handle that, but today you make that attempt. I won't, personally, I try not to get in bed any later than after 9 o'clock, but sleep deprivation is a big one, and most people today are chronically sleep deprived. It's not that we're all getting in bed at 2 and waking up at 3 to go to work, but it's the chronicity in sleep time. What time should we sleep? What's that time frame where we really need to get ideal sleep for healing and repair? That time frame is sometime between midnight and ideally 2 a.m., but even more specifically 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. If we could idealize our sleep, we would definitely be sleeping in that 4-hour window to maximize our immune system's ability to help us function. And again, most people, I can't say most, many people, they're not getting in bed until midnight. And so they're not falling asleep until maybe midnight 30, 1 a.m. And so then that leaves them with just that 1 hour left, right? Or 1.5 hours of that window of ideal sleep time and recovery. So we definitely, want to consider that sleep as a priority, getting to bed on time. And most of you do just by the nature of your responsibilities, kids, work, etc. But you don't want to let sleep pass you by. Let's talk a little bit about why. Now, this was published, this graphic I wanted to show you over here was published in the journal Nature, and it's all about sleep deprivation. And so let's just blow it up and show you some of the functions, some of the importance of sleep as a rule of thumb. So here we have up the top sleep deprivation, and then you can see down here with that sleep deprivation comes all these different abnormal functions. So what do we get? We get a reduction in Th1 cells, an increase in Th2 cells. That pattern, where that happens chronically, increases the risk of developing cancer, but it also increases your risk of infection. So again, we're talking immune system function. We also know that sleep deprivation reduces natural killer cells. Natural killer cells are our sentry cells that probe and help us fight all the time. We know that it reduces our ability to produce antibodies from B cells, right? And so antibody production reduction can obviously lead to that as well, increased risk for infection, but also poor ability to fight infection. We know it reduces our ability for antigen presentation. What does that mean? That means you have these types of T cells that they have little handcuffs on their surface, and what they do is these T cells will handcuff a germ or a bad guy or something that the immune system perceives to be bad, and it will present it to your T cells. So this you see over here is an antigen presenting cell presenting to the T cell. These things here, we'll call these virus. And so then that T cell can then take action, right? Produce inflammatory cytokines to try to neutralize, that virus. But what we're saying here is that sleep deprivation reduces this communication between antigen-presenting cells and your T cells. And then lastly, on this far right side, we've got inflammatory mediators. So we got lack of sleep increases inflammation. And so interleukin-1, interleukin-6, CRP, TNF-alpha, which is tumor necrosis factor alpha, increasing the risk of not really even just cardiovascular disease, but increasing the risk of multitudes of chronic inflammatory diseases. So sleep deprivation is no joke. You absolutely don't want to embark on this as a strategy to try to sustain your immune system long term. Get your sleep, bottom line. Okay, next one, let's say cut out sugar. Now, a lot of people say, well, define sugar. Does that mean don't eat fruit? Does that mean don't eat things that have glucose in them? No, this is really what we're talking about here, is cut out refined and processed sugars. You see here, research shows that uncontrolled blood sugar contributes to an overwhelmed immune system, increased risk for infection and inflammation, right? So how do we know that? One of the reasons we know that so well is diabetics. The research on diabetics, what do we see in diabetics? The high levels of blood glucose over time increases the risk for these guys to have infection, and diabetics are notorious for infection. That's why when they get a scratch on their foot, if they don't check their feet on a regular basis, a lot of times that scratch will pick up an infection and it will go septic, and they can lose their limbs, they can lose their feet as a result of a simple infection. So sugar, we definitely want to control. Let's check out some of the research on sugar itself. Now, I love this one because it's one of the older research studies originally done on sugar in terms of how it can impact and influence the immune system. So we'll blow that one up here. You can see it's published in 1973. So this isn't new information. It's just information that is not widely shared and widely spread. So 100-gram portions of carbohydrate from glucose, fructose, sucrose, honey, or orange juice all significantly decrease the capacity of neutrophils to engulf bacteria. Now, neutrophils are a specialized type of white blood cell. Think of it as your army. Neutrophils are like your white blood cell system's army, and so they're first on the ground. And so when they engulf bacteria, they secrete different types of enzymes to neutralize that potential infectious microorganism. And so what sugar does is it reduces their capacity to Pac-Man, to eat up that bacteria. So this is called a decrease in phagocytic index. And you see at the bottom here, these data suggest that the function and not the number of phagocytes was altered. So it doesn't reduce the count or the quantity, but it reduces their capacity for function. This implicates that glucose and other simple carbohydrates in the control of phagocytosis, and shows that the effects last for at least 5 hours. So that's key. So imagine, every couple of hours you're bombing out a soda, right? That effect, every time you drink it, is going to last for 5 hours, right? So it's perpetual as long as you continue to do it. Now, on the other hand, a fast, this is immune strategy, a fast of 36 or 60 hours significantly increased the phagocytic index. So, after a sugar bomb, fasting 30 or 60 hours, up to 60 hours, significantly reverse that scenario or increase the ability of your neutrophils to engulf bacteria. So this is just another strategy. We'll call this a bonus reason, right? Fasting improves the immune system, and eating sugar reduces the capacity of the immune system cells to do their job and engulf bacteria and other microorganisms that need to be neutralized. And we also have here, this is a study done on blood glucose regulation in type 2 diabetics. And you can see here lymphocyte levels. This is different kind of cell. Neutrophil is one kind of cell. Lymphocyte is another kind of cell. Remember, lymphocytes are the cells that predominantly police the blood, but also help to produce antibodies. So that's those B cells, those B lymphocytes. But the lymphocyte levels were reduced as a result of hyperglycemia, high blood sugar, in patients with type 1 diabetes and healthy subjects. So it didn't matter whether you had type 1 diabetes or if you were healthy. If you had high blood sugar, your lymphocyte counts were reduced. We get this a lot in my clinic. When we're drawing blood on diabetics, we use a lot of technology called lymphocyte proliferation technology, which is where we draw lymphocytes out of the whole blood. And a lot of times in these people, in these diabetics, we have to draw the blood a few different times because their lymphocyte counts are too low, and we can't get enough from a single blood draw to get an effective test result back. But you can see here, low relative lymphocyte concentrations have been shown to lead independently to coronary heart disease in patients with type 2 diabetes mellitus. Patients with type 2 diabetes have also been shown to have insufficient proliferation of lymphocytes, meaning they won't grow, they won't do their job well, they won't replicate well, due to low expression of interleukin-2 receptors. The present study found decreased lymphocyte counts and increased neutrophil counts in patients with unregulated diabetes. These findings are consistent with published study in which lymphocyte levels were found to be reduced due to hyperglycemia. Patients with diabetes have been suggested to have insufficient proliferation of lymphocytes. Okay, so again, high blood sugar will wreck your body's ability to make good lymphocytes and for those lymphocytes to do their job. Now let's look at this last one here. So you can see here, this is dietary sugars inhibit biologic functions of the pattern recognition molecule mannose-binding lectin. What does that mean? In a nutshell, dietary sugars, in particular fructose, this is the sugar everybody, the TV has told you, oh, corn sugar is just fine, fructose, high fructose corn syrup is healthy, right? And we know that's nonsense, but again, high fructose or fructose negatively regulate the innate immune system or immunity against viral and bacterial pathogens. So if you're pumping the high fructose, which is what do we use in the U.S. specifically? What do we use most? We use corn fructose as the primary sweetening agent. It used to be dextrose or table sugar from typically beet or sugar cane, but today, because we subsidize taxpayer dollars to grow corn, most of the sweetener in the U.S. is fructose, specifically high fructose corn syrup, and that, again, negatively regulate the immune function against viruses and bacterial pathogens. So keep the sugar out if you want your immune system to work well. Okay, let's look at the next one. Cut out alcohol. Alcohol does a lot of different things, but one of the things alcohol does is it suppresses the immune system, but it also depletes B vitamins and it causes dehydration. These are all things that will work against you, right, as we come into cold and flu season. And if you want to be robust and resilient, you definitely want to minimize your consumption of alcohol. Now, I'm not saying you can't have an occasional drink. I'm not trying to kind of wreck your holiday plans either, because I can just hear you all screaming at me now. Dr. Osborne is just so stoic and he doesn't want anybody to enjoy life. It's not what I'm saying. It's the consistent use of alcohol. And I would look at this two different ways. So alcohol, it's either heavy drinking in an acute setting. So like the weekend where you just get hammered, or the night out where you just heavily drink several drinks, right? So that's one aspect that will really deplete your immunity. And the other is chronic light drinking. Now I get this a lot. How much is enough or how much is too much? Somebody came in just a couple weeks ago to see me. Like, I only have 2 glasses of wine every night at dinner. And in their mind, it was, I only have 2 glasses of wine. In my mind, it was like, holy cow, you have 2 glasses of wine every night. You're drinking 14 drinks a week. You're getting, basically, that alcohol is poisoning you slowly. It's a chronic poisoning. And so you want to avoid that. My advice on any kind of alcoholic drinking is intermittent use. If you're going to do it intermittently. Give your body long periods of time away from alcohol so that it can recover. So use it intermittently. I definitely wouldn't go more than once a week. As just a general rule of thumb, if you're trying to keep your immune system strong, and that one time a week should just be very, very moderate. 1, maybe 2 drinks at the most, and then go a long distance in between. I mean, we know how alcohol affects the immune system. You can see here, this was published in alcohol research, but clinicians have long observed an association between excessive alcohol consumption and adverse immune-related health effects such as susceptibility to pneumonia, which is, again, upper respiratory problem. So in recent decades, this association has been expanded to a greater likelihood of acute respiratory stress, ARDS, sepsis, alcoholic liver disease, and certain cancers, a higher incidence of postoperative complications. What does that mean? That means if you're scheduled for surgery, if you're drinking a lot, if you're drinking consistently and you go in for surgery, you won't heal, right? You'll struggle to heal, and then your body's got to deal with that physical trauma, because that's what surgery is. It's scheduled physical trauma. So it's very, very difficult to heal when you're consistently consuming alcohol. And you can see a higher incidence of post-operative complications. So that's why. The complication is when you're not healing. And so that when you're not healing, that wound can get infected. You can get swelling around the area. If the wound isn't healing, then the tissue or the organ that was operated on doesn't regain its function. And so that comes with different complications as well. And you can see here in slower and less complete recovery from infection and physical trauma, including poor wound healing. So this also includes your exercise. So this is where consistent daily alcohol will affect your exercise and your ability to recover after your workout and your routine. So if you're drinking 2 glasses of wine every night and then trying to go work out the next day, you're going to struggle to recover from the exercise that you're doing as well, not just because not everybody's always scheduled for surgery. Okay, let's move into the next one. So stop eating foods you're sensitive to. So, one of the things that I'm known for is avoidance of grain and gluten, right? So, no grain, no pain, for those of you who, don't know. That book has an entire protocol that a person can follow if they suspect gluten sensitivity, and then successfully navigate, that diet. But because this is one of the most common foods that people react to is grain, particularly all grain, not just wheat, not just barley or rye, but also oats and corn and rice and the other grains as well. So stop eating foods you're sensitive to. Now, if you're not sure whether or not you are gluten sensitive, I'd encourage you to do one of two things tonight, right now. One, and we'll put links up in the notes here, but one, get a test. So you could take our quiz. It's a quiz that asks you a series of questions, and depending on how you answer those questions, and we try to guide you in a direction that might be conducive for you to understand that you may be gluten sensitive. So take our gluten quiz. Again, we'll put that link below this video. Or two, get genetic testing done. Genetic testing will give you a confirmation whether or not you have the genetics for gluten sensitivity, and that's something that would help you understand whether or not you need to change your diet in that way. Now, a lot of you watching have known me for a while. Maybe you're already grain-free, gluten-free. In that regard, maybe you're still struggling a little bit. Maybe you're not quite sure why. One of the biggest holdbacks for people that follow No Grain, No Pain is that they have sensitivity to other foods. It's not just gluten that's holding them back. One of the stories I share in my book, No Grain, No Pain, is the young girl Ginger, who not only was she gluten sensitive, but she was reactive to blueberries, and every morning her mom would make her a blueberry smoothie, and she was given a terminal diagnosis. The doctors gave her 6 months to live, and when we took the food away, we took the blueberries away, we took the grain away, she made a full recovery and never died, and she's still alive today, and she's gone on and graduated college. So sensitivities can be a major drawback or holdback to your immune system. So if you're struggling and you're finding yourself with recurring infections, whether it's urinary or upper respiratory tract infection, or just chronic antibiotic use from different types of infection, you might consider asking your doctor to test you for other food sensitivities. You can also come visit me at Gluten Free Society. We're actually getting ready to offer a food sensitivity test directly to the public, because so many doctors won't do the proper testing. So get tested would be my point there. Outside of that, keep a good food diary, because sometimes you can pick up on foods that your body doesn't agree with. And so I always look at eating as, follow these 3 rules. Rule number 1, you can't get healthy eating food that's not healthy. That's the common sense rule. You know what I'm talking about. Soda's not healthy. Candy's not healthy. You're not going to have stellar health if you're doing those things on the regular. Number 2, if your body rejects the food by giving you symptoms, in essence, if you eat it and you feel bad, listen to your body. It's right. It doesn't want you to eat that food. There's something in it that is irritant or aggravating to your body. And rule number 3, don't eat what you're allergic, sensitive, or intolerant to. That's where testing sometimes can be a lifesaver for people getting tested, because those can be harder to detect. So, okay, let's talk about nutrition support supplements. So this is my last recommendation of supercharging your immune system. And we really saw this list play out well over the disease that shall not be named, right? We really saw this list, specifically this list of nutrients work extremely well for people, who came down sick. And so, vitamin C increases natural killer cell activity. It's a primary fuel source for immune cells, and so that's one of the reasons why it's so impactful and so effective as an immune supportive supplement. Zinc inhibits viral replication, and it does so in multiple ways. It's actually one of the few substances known to man that can inhibit viral replication in so many different ways. And so many people are zinc deficient. As a matter of fact, look down at your fingernails and your beds of your fingernails right now. If you've got big white spots on them, there's a very good likelihood that you may be low in zinc. And alcohol is one of the things that causes zinc deficiency. So again, just another reason why you want to look at your alcohol consumption potentially too. But zinc, very, very important. I know what the next question is. You guys are going to be like, well, how much to take, right? We're going to put another link in below this video for you. And this is the immune protocol that I've been using in my practice for 21 years with people, and we're just going to put that in there, and you can download it, you can check that out and do with it what you will. But quercetin is another one. Quercetin is one of the things that I really like about quercetin is it's an ionophore for zinc. So what that means is it helps open up your cell so that zinc can come inside of your cell. So it helps get more zinc into the cell. That's one of the beneficial effects of quercetin. That's why so many doctors, again, were using it during this last couple of years. Quercetin is also anti-inflammatory. It's a bioflavonoid. It has a lot of anti-inflammatory properties, and it works. What I like about it too is it works synergistically with vitamin C. So when you combine quercetin with vitamin C, what you get is a synergistic impact on inflammation. They work together in an aspect of your cell. It's very, very similar. The mechanism of action is very, very similar to steroids. And so again, a lot of doctors, when people will get an upper respiratory virus, will prescribe a steroid just to kind of keep the inflammation down. That reduces the cytokine storm risk, and it reduces the potential systemic effects and reduces the potential risk for hospitalization. But when you combine vitamin C and you combine quercetin, they really have a synergistic effect on helping to modulate inflammation. The next one is NAC, and NAC, boy, it's one of my favorite too. That's why these are all my favorite as far as immune support. So NAC has been shown to reduce the time of illness. It's also been shown to prevent a recurrence of illness. This is one of my favorite for prevention. So NAC, again, one of my favorite. NAC's also important. It helps your body produce glutathione, which is very, very important for your liver to be able to help, basically cleanse the blood. And then we have vitamin D. Vitamin D, extremely powerful immune regulating nutrient. Vitamin D deficiency is epidemic. It's interesting during this pandemic. Actually had a mayor from a town up in the Midwest called me. He called my clinic. He said, I want to talk to Dr. Osborne. I saw him on Fox News, and I want to ask him some questions about vitamin D. So this mayor, he calls me up. He says, I really want to do something meaningful for the citizens that are in my town. And I've gotten some money allowances from the federal government in order to do that. And so what we did is we talked about how he could effectively buy vitamin D for his town and distribute that vitamin D, and what kind of a profound impact that would have on the immune systems of the people that lived in his town. And that's exactly what he did. He went on and he bought enough vitamin D for everybody in his town to get high enough doses to correct deficiencies to drive up vitamin D. So again, the epidemic status of vitamin D deficiency, you know, this is one of the most important. And one of the reasons why cold and flu season comes around in the fall is because that's the time when the day shortens as well. And so we have less capacity to generate or make vitamin D. So this is very, very important. And when that vitamin D starts to drop, we become more susceptible to chronic infection. So there you have it, folks. These are my 7 ways to supercharge your immune system as we go into cold and flu season. Hey, if you've got questions that you'd like to ask, make sure you go ahead and put those in the chat box. But I'll see you back here Thursday, 12:30 Central Time to answer those questions. Welcome to food that doesn't suck. Or does it? Let's find out. We're going to be talking about 2 different varieties of crackers today. One here on my left side, the Hugh brand of crackers. The other on my right side, the Simple Mills. And so we're going to be taste testing these. If you like a good cracker, and this is, you know, one of the things that we get a lot is, Dr. Osborne, what's a really good crunchy cracker? I really miss that crunch. You know, because they're good with lots of different things. You can take crackers with things like tuna salad or chicken salad. Crackers go really great with chili. And sometimes you just want a cracker and you want that crunch. So are these good? Are they worth it? Let's dive into the test. So first, let's look at Hugh and let's have a taste. A fellow needs a glass of water for a taste test like this, simply because it's super crunchy and the crackers are dry, and that's not a bad thing. I don't say that as a bad thing. It just takes a minute to chew it up and really let the flavors hit your palate. Overall, crunchy is definitely there. So this cracker's definitely got some crunch to it. The flavor, though, the flavor's good. It's a nutty flavor more than anything else. It's a really almost like a rich, nutty flavor. As far as the appearance is concerned, so again, good flavor. I'd probably score it 0 to 10, somewhere in the neighborhood of a 6 to 7. And again, this is just my opinion personally. So overall, pretty good. Not a bad cracker. As far as the appearance, though, is concerned, as you can see on the plate, you get a number of different crumbled crackers, and maybe that was what happened to this particular box in transit or in shipping. But if you're having a party and you're trying to put crackers out, ladies, and I say ladies because men don't care. If the cracker tastes good, we eat it. But you know, if you're talking about curb appeal of your cracker and again, laying it out, if a box comes and there's a lot of crumbled crackers, then you're not going to be able to really lay those out. And this particular box had a lot of that. But again, crunch was really solid, and the flavor was pretty solid. So overall, not a bad cracker. Let's jump over here to Simple Mills. Oh, great. So we got some water coming in. Let me just cleanse my palate. There's something else about this cracker, particularly it did kind of sticks into the teeth a little bit. Good or bad or indifferent, doesn't bother me. That's just what it did. Okay, let's check out Simple Mills over here on the right. And so what strikes me is, okay, so just the appearance. This one kind of reminds me more of the classic nip, like cheese nip cracker or Ritz type cracker. It's you know, perfectly squared with little tiny holes punched through it. So kind of, I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up and that was kind of a fond thing at Grandma's house. Anyway, just memories coming back, but let's try the cracker itself. That's a good cracker. Flavor-wise, in my opinion, for what that's worth, I know taste is relative, it's definitely tastes better to me. The flavor, it's a richer, a little bit more bolder flavor. Almost has like a hint of butteriness in the flavor, but then you can really pick up the herb blend in the cracker itself. And the crunch is superior. Definitely it's a superior crunch to the Hue cracker. So like, again, if you're thinking back to that, like crackers with your chili and you're looking for that crunch, this one definitely has. I mean, this one has a good crunch. It's just this crunch is much better. I'd give this crunch a 9 out of 10. I'd probably give this crunch a 7 out of 10. And the flavor of this one, I definitely score much higher. Probably a 9 in terms of flavor. Very, very good tasting cracker. Again, this is the Simple Mills. I think this flavor is the fine ground sea salt almond flour cracker. So definitely, again, in my opinion, a better cracker. Very good crunch. Let's grade them then too on cost. So if we're looking at how much did this box of crackers cost, the Hue brand comes in at about $5.99 a box. The Simple Mills brand, $5.39 a box. Although I imagine you could probably pick it up on sale, either one of these. I'm sure it would have sales here or there, but coming in for a box of crackers, pound for pound, that's kind of expensive. But if you're really missing that flavor and that crunch, again, in my opinion, I would definitely go with this. Just from what I remember of gluten, the way gluten crackers taste. I haven't had gluten in almost 20 years, but so the gluten palatability, swappability factor definitely goes to the Simple Mills brand. This one, again, it had a crunch, but a lot of it was stuck to the teeth, so it was crunchy, but the texture on the tail end was a little chewier and again embedded into the teeth. Let's talk then about the nutritional value, the differences between these two crackers. And so if we look at the Simple Mills cracker, it's a nut and seed flour blend, predominantly containing almond, sunflower seeds, and flax seeds, but other ingredients, tapioca, cassava, sunflower oil, sea salt, onion, and garlic. You could really pick up in this one the onion and the garlic. And then rosemary as a preservative. Rosemary is a common food preservative. So from a nutritional perspective, 4 servings per box. The serving size is 17 crackers. Whoever sits down and eats only 17, most people don't. Not in my experience. But a lot of fat in this cracker. So 8 grams of fat per serving, so that's 17 crackers, 8 grams of fat. No saturated fat if you're not really to speak of, 0.5 grams of saturated fat. And then from the carbohydrate perspective, 18 grams of carbohydrate. 2 of the 18 grams is a fiber, and then 3 grams of protein. So it's a low protein, high fat, reasonably moderate carbohydrate-based cracker. So again, even if you compared it to a gluten-containing cracker, a lot lower on the carbohydrate spectrum, higher on the fat spectrum, but overall a really good cracker. Where I would score points against this cracker would be the fact that one of the primary ingredients is tapioca starch and cassava flour, and going back to the reason why, those two flours generally aren't fortified. They are high carbohydrate with low nutritional density, so your body is going to tap into its own reserve tank to process some of that carbohydrate. So this is not something I would add into the diet as a primary day-to-day staple food, but certainly once in a while, if you have that hankering for crunch, definitely not a bad option. The other thing that I would score against this product, for and both against, is that some of the ingredients are organic, which is definitely a 4. So the sunflower oil is organic, the onion, the garlic are both organic. However, the tapioca starch, the cassava flour are not. And so that again, we look for organic as much as we possibly can find it. This product is not 100% organic. I think that it would be a far superior product if this company would seek out organic ingredients and put those in lieu. It'd probably raise the cost quite a bit, but again, your health's probably worth it. Now let's look at the Hue brand. So if we look at this one, serving size is 22 crackers. These are actually smaller crackers and they're a little thinner. So 22 crackers is a serving size, and it comes in from a caloric value under Simple Meals, whereas this for a serving of 17 crackers with 150 calories, this one is only 100 calories for 22 crackers. So if we look at the nutritional ingredient list, we've got 6 grams of fat versus the 8 grams of fat over here. We've got 13 grams of carbohydrate versus the 18 grams of carbohydrate over here, and we've got 3 grams of protein, so they're equal on protein. The Hugh brand's a little bit lower in carbs per serving and a little bit lower in fat per serving and overall calories. If we look at the ingredients, they have a grain-free flour blend of almond, cassava, and organic coconut. So that was what I was picking up. I'm not a huge fan of coconut, but there was definitely coconut in these. So there's an organic coconut flour in this. The almond and cassava flour in this product are not organic, so it points against that for being non-organic, but positive points for the coconut being organic. And then it's got black chia seed and flax seed. It's got coconut aminos, organic coconut aminos, and sea salt. It's got apple cider vinegar, which is also organic, and then it has shallots, organic thyme, and organic rosemary extract. So, both of these products from a quality of the ingredients perspective, both score good points. They're both non-GMO, so there's no genetically modified ingredients at all. But neither one of these products are 100% organic. So again, a few points taken off for that reason. Nutritionally, again, points against the cassava and the tapioca as far as nutritional density. So in either case, I wouldn't eat either one of these foods as a staple. But if I were having or hosting a Super Bowl party or a Christmas party and wanted to have some crackers out, or if I, every once in a while just wanted to have some crackers for that crunch, definitely you could go with either one of these. But my personal favorite, and the one that wins this, in my opinion, are Simple Meals crackers over Hugh. There you have it. From my mouth to your ears. Hope that's helpful for you in picking out healthy, gluten-free food options that don't suck. Hey, in this week's segment of Pharma Harmer, we're going to be talking about PPIs, otherwise known as proton pump inhibitors. These little medications are basically they're acid blockers. They prevent your stomach from producing acid, and they come by many names. We're going to go ahead and put up on the screen a list of those names for you. Prilosec, Nexium, Prevacid, Acifex, Protonix, Dexilant, and omeprazole with sodium bicarbonate. These are, again, the primary types of PPI. So if you're using any of these medications, you really want to pay close attention. Now, one of the reasons I'm talking about these drugs is because one of the side effects of gluten exposure is acid reflux. As a matter of fact, check this out. A major research study published in the Scandinavian Journal of Gastroenterology, you can see here that peptic disease is also known as, GERD or gastric reflux, gastroesophageal reflux disease, heartburn, stomach ulcer. That's peptic disease kind of summarized. It's not uncommon in the presentation of celiac disease, meaning that people with celiac disease oftentimes have gastrointestinal inflammation manifesting as heartburn, right? So what do doctors want to do? They want to put people with heartburn on drugs that lower stomach acid. And why is that important? Because if you're on this drug, you may just need to change your diet. There's so many people I have seen over the years that if they change their diet, they no longer need to use the medicine because the heartburn and the GERD go away, because it was the gluten that was the irritant to the stomach lining and not necessarily that they were regurgitating acid. So there's that. But the other thing that I want to cover in this segment is the side effects of these medications. Now, these drugs are prolific and very, very good at their job in causing nutritional deficiencies, because when you block stomach acid, remember, acid is required to absorb calcium and magnesium and iron, zinc, chromium, selenium, vitamin B5, protein, fats. You need acid to absorb the nutrients, the micronutrients from the food that you're eating. So when you block acid extensively over long periods of time, you can create wide-scale malnutrition in an individual. Now check out this slide. This was published in 2021 in the journal Curious. And you can see here, these are the adverse effects associated with proton pump inhibitor use. And it's quite a long list. You can see at the top there, respiratory pneumonia, and then go to the right, central nervous system dysfunction, as in headaches, dementia, that's not good, hepatic encephalopathy, cardiovascular diseases like stroke and myocardial infarction, and then in your gut it can cause nausea, vomiting, abdominal pain, and constipation. It can also increase the risk of infections in your GI tract like Clostridium difficile and non-typhoid Salmonella, Campylobacter, and other types of gram-negative bacteria infections. It can also cause vitamin and mineral deficiencies, as I mentioned earlier. And you go over to the left, you've got musculoskeletal problems like bone loss, osteoporosis, fractures, increased risk of muscle pain, myopathy, and it can cause hepatocellular carcinoma or liver cancer, as well acute interstitial nephritis, which is kidney disease. So, I mean, these drugs can pretty much run the gambit through your body, pretty much damaging and destroying several of your different tissues, including causing major malnutrition. So you got to ask yourself, is blocking that symptom of acid reflux really worth it if it comes with all of these other problems? Take this information to your doctor. Look, have a meaningful conversation. If you haven't been tested for gluten as a cause of your reflux, get it done now. And don't forget, we do genetic testing at Gluten Free Society if your doctor refuses to help you out on that. As we approach this fall, I thought I would be remiss if we didn't address the ass-backward nature of how our government politicians handled the disease that shall not be named. So let's just go through the list of crazy that was implemented and foisted on our shoulders over these past 2 years. So these are all failed immune policies, policies that didn't work, that didn't slow down the spread of communicable disease, but actually served to further deteriorate our immune systems. And if we learn from the past, hopefully we can prevent the problems being repeated in the future. So let's check this out. Isolate inside. That was one of the main pieces of advice we were given. Go lock yourself indoors. Why is that a problem? I don't know, fresh air. Maybe there's a benefit to getting it sometimes. Maybe there's a benefit to sunshine. Maybe vitamin D and melatonin are important for immune function. After all, vitamin D was one of the major treatments given in hospitals during the epidemic time frame to help people. So isolating inside is the opposite of getting adequate vitamin D. What was one of the other policies? Social distancing. This is one I couldn't fathom because it made no sense. There's never been any studies, there's never been any science on whether or not standing 6 feet away from somebody is going to stop the spread of a virus versus standing 3 feet or 2 feet or 8 feet away from that person. Now, common sense would dictate that you don't want to breathe in the respiratory debris coming out of somebody's sneeze. Certainly that makes sense. However, social distancing is part of what led to isolationism and people being scared of other people. And when you couple that fear, you get a group think that being near another human being is a problem and a spread for disease, then you end up with a society that's at war with itself. You end up with people hating each other, people looking at each other, you know, with the crazy eye. And it just wasn't good as a policy. We also saw that policy in schools. We saw that policy in public places. And I think it was a failed policy that lacked any scientific merit or backing. We also closed down businesses. And what was really ironic to me is some of the businesses that were closed while others were allowed to be open. What does it mean to have an essential business? To me, I always thought being able to earn a living to take care of your family's needs for clothing, shelter, and food was an essentiality for all humans in free countries. But apparently not. Our government didn't agree. They closed down gyms where now you can't exercise to keep your fitness level up during a time where you need your fitness. but they're leaving alcohol stores open. They're leaving liquor stores open. How does that make sense? Liquor's an immunosuppressant. Exercise supports immune function, but we're going to create essentiality out of businesses in the opposite direction of good health policies. And so that was another major failure. What else? Let's all wear masks. No, let's all wear 2 masks, right? No, let's get a shot and then still wear masks. Like, what was the whole point of the whole mask issue other than making a few politicians extremely wealthy people through their deals with China mask makers? And if you caught any of the online stories on where these masks were made and how they were made, you saw people in dirty nightshirts basically putting masks together on dirt floors, under zero sanitary conditions, and then those very same masks were being sold to us under the auspice that they were somehow going to protect us from germs. But the reality is most of these masks contain microplastics that suppress the immune system. They also contain chemical contaminants called PFASs, perfluoroalkyl substances. These very things, when breathed into the lung fields, can increase your risk for picking up respiratory infections. Not even to discuss the filth and the debris that accumulates in the moisture of the mask, leading to a bacterial and viral haven that you just keep repetitively breathing. And then if we add to that the fact that we're closing down one of your primary holes, right? We've got primary holes in our head, and none of them are supposed to be closed by masks or plugs or anything else. So keep those holes open. Don't repeat those mistakes of the past. What should have probably happened during this pandemic issue was we should have been encouraged to go outside. One of the biggest failed policies that I saw, and this was from the top down, was wear your mask in a national park. You're out in nature, hiking, away from people, and wear your mask in the national park. There was actually signs up everywhere saying wear your mask. It was a mandate, a federal mandate, to have those things on in the great outdoors. A completely ridiculous statement. Consider how much money of your tax dollars were spent on creating stupid signs to put up in thousands of places across the country instead of actively telling you you can exercise, you can get sunshine, you can make sure that you're eating whole real food, and that is the best thing for your immune system. And this is really where our government failed. They made no mention of those things, and all the emphasis was on wash your hands with chemicals, wear masks that contain chemicals, go inside and socially isolate, and whatever you do, don't use good judgment and common sense to take care of your family and continue to stay at your job. And the coup d'etat to top it all off was inject yourself with a vaccine that has zero long-term data or research to back up its efficacy, to back up whether or not it's actually even safe. And the doctors probably were the most guilty of this one because they got in line and they were pushing it just as hard as the government was, despite the scientific evidence. So I don't care if you got the vaccine or if you didn't. This isn't about me trying to call you out for doing something that I personally didn't do. This is about learning from the past so that we can move forward in the future and not make the same silly mistakes that created such a catastrophic consequence to our country.
All right, Doc, this week the viewers would like to know, what city did you grow up in?
Well, I was born in Houston, Texas, but I grew up in Pasadena, which is just south of Houston, also known as Get Down Dena and Stinkadena, because all the refineries, all the oil refineries are very, very near that town. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons I moved was one morning I stepped out on my porch and I could taste the air. That's the foul nature of the chemicals there. But interesting, Pasadena is known, for those of you who remember this, for the country and western bar Mickey Gilley's, or Gilley's. It was featured in the movie Urban Cowboy with John Travolta. And so when I was a kid, I actually, my mom was a country western songwriter, and so I actually got on the stage at Gilley's, and I was like 4 years old, and I was in a little rhinestone cowboy outfit, cowboy boots, and a cowboy hat, and I got to sing on the stage of Gilley's. So interesting history tidbit there for you. Thanks for tuning in to the Dr. Osborne Zone. Don't forget to share, like, and subscribe for more content like this, and make sure you come back next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time and Thursday at noon 30 for more episodes. Keeping your immune system strong is essential to maintaining good overall health. That's why I designed Virid. Virid is a specialized, synergistic immune support formula. Virid includes a powerful combination of key nutrients and botanical extracts that provide reinforcement during immune challenges. This synergistic formula helps provide immediate support for the immune system. It boosts protective antioxidant capacity, and it promotes healthy inflammatory balance. Virid includes a blend of key vitamins such as vitamin B5, A, C, and zinc. All are crucial for supporting immune system energy and response. Additionally, it contains botanicals such as black elderberry, echinacea, astragalus, and andrographis. These herbs are known for their traditional immune properties, and they also serve as natural antioxidants. As with all of our formulas, Virid does not contain gluten, and it is also free of allergens derived from yeast, artificial colors, and flavors. For daily prevention, take 1 to 2 capsules a day. For first signs of cold or flu-like symptoms, take 2 to 4 capsules per day. And if you're looking for the ultimate immune support combination, Virid synergizes well with Detox C, Ultra D3, Ultra Q, and NAC, my favorite lineup for immune system support.